Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick, and I am very excited to finally be getting around to making this video. I've never done anything like this before on my channel, so just know that right up front. But if everything that I have planned works, if everything works the way I want it to, hopefully we'll end up with some really nice audio and maybe a little bit of an entertaining video as well. So what we're going to be doing is taking this stack. I know it might be a little tough to tell, but I have 4 Recordio discs here. I have 2 of these sort of, I think they were probably white-ish or kind of taupe colored when they were brand new. I have 2 of these like 6.5-inch records is what they're referred to as. And then I have 2 of these red 10-inch ones. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be taking those records, putting them on my record player, recording them using my professional audio equipment, recording them, and then using all of my recording engineering skills and editing and mixing skills to try to fix up the audio as much as I can, try to make it as clear and understandable as possible. So that's what this video is. And I'll just say right up front here, if you want to skip my talking at the beginning and just get right to that, what I'm planning on doing is just taking the camera, aiming it at the record player, but the audio you will be hearing when you see the record spinning, the actual audio you will be hearing is the cleaned up audio that I had at the end of this. So however good I can make it sound, that's what the audio is going to be that you're going to be hearing. And actually, maybe I'll include like a track of what it sounds like before I clear it up. We'll see. I'll clearly be labeling what you're hearing. But if you want to skip to the end of the video and just see those, I'll be doing each side of these 4 records. So I'll have timestamps in the description of the video so you can kind of skip around and see what you want to see. But before we get to that, there's just a couple things I wanted to discuss. And the first thing is just that I am a fan of antiques and a fan of vintage audio gear, and not even just audio gear, but just like antiques in general and old things. And along with audio and things, one of the things that I enjoy is paper, like old papers, pamphlets, old books, things like that. And one of the reasons for that is that I really enjoy the idea that the thing that you could potentially be holding in your hand might be the only one, or at least one of very few, of those things in existence. And that is what we're dealing with today with these records. We know, because we know and understand a little bit of how this stuff works, and I'll explain it a little bit more in a second, but we're 99.99999% sure that the audio that is on these 4 records only exists on these 4 records here in my hand. And to me, that's such a cool feeling. It makes me feel like I'm an archaeologist, digging through some rocks, or a paleontologist looking through some bones or something like that. And it makes me feel cool in that way, that I can maybe hopefully contribute to history a little bit by taking these recordings, pulling them off, and then sharing them with everybody. But most importantly, sharing them with the family that these records come from. So the very quick story of how I came across these records. I live in a very small town in rural Nebraska, which is about 40 miles or so outside of Omaha, Nebraska, which is a city that has a population of about 1 million people, just for some context. But the town that I am from has about 300 people in it now. And over this summer, the summer of 2021, we had what we refer to as our citywide garage sales. And it's a 3-day event where you have garage sales for basically 3 days. So the first day we were going around, and I found this garage sale that had some cool old antique-y looking interesting stuff. And I thought the prices were a little high, and there was nothing that I felt I had to purchase. But they did have one thing that was really interesting to me, and it was a basket of records. And in the basket there were some 45s, there were some 78s, and all sorts of different things. But then these 4 records were in there, just stacked in there along with a stack of records. And I looked at them and I thought, oh, I've never seen anything really like that before. They look like they're kind of home recorded, but I didn't know. None of the labels say anything. And I'll do a little close-ups of the records in a little bit, but just to finish my story, I looked at them, I thought they were neat, kind of filed them away in the memory bank, and left. Well, later in that day, we came across my uncle, who was also going to some garage sales in the area. And he is the guy that's sort of my spiritual guide when it comes to antiques and old vintage things, because he has been a collector his whole life. And he has amassed this amazing collection of old audio gear, lots of records, all sorts of cool old stuff. And I was talking to him about these records, and he was like, oh, those sound like they were the home recording records that people used back during like World War II era. And what they would do is they would record a message on one side of the record and then ship it overseas in the mail to their family member who was serving in the military. And then they would take it there and listen to the records in their camp or wherever they were based. And because the records are all recorded at 78 RPM, which was standard at the time, they were made to be listened to on any recording device or record playing device at the time. So when he told me that, I was like, oh, well, maybe that's what's on these recordings. And it made me even more interested in them than I was before. And so the next day, I went back to the garage sale to just kind of see, and they had them there. And I started talking to the people who were running the garage sale. It was sort of an older couple. And they were telling me that they didn't really even know what those were at all. I was telling them kind of what they were, or what my uncle at least had told me that he thought that they were. And so I was telling him, I think these might be home recordings. And the woman kind of got interesting and was like, oh, it kind of jogged her memory. And she said that she had a vague idea that at least some point, either her mother or her grandmother mentioned making recordings at some point, talking. She didn't know about what, but she had some sort of an idea that they had done that at some point. And so she was like, let's take them and we'll try to play one and see if we hear someone talking. So they had an old record player there. There was sort of like a little suitcase one that flipped out. And I'm 90% sure it wasn't a Recordio record player. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't the record player that they were made on or anything like that. It was just a standard one. And it was kind of a little junky one too. It wasn't the best. But it did have a 78 RPM setting. And so we took one of the red ones and we put it on there and we started playing it. And what we heard was, or at least what we thought we heard was, polka music, which, if I had to guess, that's what I would have guessed what was on it, because in our area, in the Bohemian Alps of Nebraska, that's very common. You can find old polka records from all decades of vinyl records, including all the way back to old 78s of polkas and stuff. And so I thought maybe if it was a recording, it's not uncommon to come across recordings of someone performing polka in their house or at a venue or something, in the old days when they were having some sort of a dance type thing. And so that's what we heard. We thought we heard some polka. And so I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, but a little bit boring. I'm not, that into old polka recordings, but it is cool to think that that's the only performance ever caught on tape of that, So I thought that's kind of cool, but we took one of the other ones, one of these sort of more white taupey ones, taupe-colored ones, and we put it on and we heard someone talking, but we couldn't really understand what was happening. It was obviously very noisy, and the record player that they had wouldn't turn up loud enough for us to hear what was going on. So I was telling them before that, that I worked in the audio industry a little bit. And so at that point, when we heard the speech, the lady was just like, here, you take these. And if it takes you years, just come back to me whenever you have something, if you can pull something from it. And I said, I would be honored to do that. It's something that I'm excited to try to do. And I told her, though, I said, it's possible that what I pull off of these may not be intelligible at all. It might not sound good. It might just be unintelligible, And she said, that's fine. Whatever you can do, I trust you'll do as good as you can. Whatever you can do, that's cool. Just take them, see what you can do. And I told her, all right. And so here we are. And it's my time to try to take these and see if I can salvage something from them. And so I mentioned there that I have some recording industry experience. And so I want to just tell you briefly about that. I worked for 7 years at a professional recording studio in Omaha, Nebraska, working with a man named Cleet Baker, who at that point had over 40 years of experience in the industry, doing all sorts of different projects involving music and speech and classical music and all sorts of things. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with him on many different types of projects, including some restoration projects. And he, having had so many years of experience in the industry, had lots of familiarity with all these different formats of media. He when he was coming up in the industry, he worked with cutting masters to vinyl and mastering music and things for vinyl. And then later on working with tape for many, many years, and then eventually switching over to the digital side of things. And so, like I said, I got to work on so many projects with him. We did restoration projects from cassettes, from reels to reel, some vinyl stuff, just different things. Some of it was music, some of it was speech, some of it was, I believe we did a wedding at some point. I don't remember what the format of it was, but we did a wedding recording at some point. So we did really interesting, neat things like that, and I always really enjoyed those. Like I said, it made me feel special to be a part of it because you're preserving history, and I think that aspect of all of this audio restoration stuff is really, really cool and sort of the thing that drives me to enjoy this kind of thing. So the equipment that I'm going to be using to record this, I have an old record player that I'll show you in a second here, or actually maybe I'll just insert some footage here while I'm talking about it of the record player itself. And I actually have it sitting on top of my old Victrola. I don't know if you're watching this video, you might be interested in that. So here's a quick little video of the Victrola. It's pretty old. You can see the model number and whatnot on it. And it's a nice small one, which is pretty cool. So that's my wind-up Victrola. But the record player that I'm actually going to be using for this is my Audiotronics record player that I got from the school that I used to go to when it closed a few years ago in 2013. My high school closed down, and we went through and you could go through the building and buy anything you wanted. And in the music room, they had some of these really old record players. And so I got this one, and it's really cool because it has not only a 45 and a 33 speed setting, but of course it has the 78 RPM setting, which is what we'll be using today. But it's kind of a cool record player because it also has the 16 RPM record setting, which was used in schools for if they had some sort of a long speech that they needed recorded that to be on like a disc or something, or some sort of like a lecture. So you can actually find 16 RPM records that were lectures most of the time, talking and speeches and things. So I think that's kind of neat. But we'll be using the 78 on this, and I'm going to be going direct out of the headphone out of that record player into the input on my M box, and I'll be recording everything into Sony Vegas, an old version of Sony Vegas that I have. And then I'll be using restoration plugins, some older wave plugins, I believe, and some different plugins that I've just acquired over the years. But before I actually get into doing that, one other thing I wanted to mention was that I did a tiny bit of research on Recordio discs to try to find out exactly what they were and the company that made them. So the company that manufactured Recordio discs was called, I have it written down here, it was a company called Wilcox-Gay Company that started in 1910, and they were known for manufacturing record players and just different sort of audio equipment of the day. And in 1939, they came out with the first Recordio player/recorder. And what it did was it allowed you to not just play records, but to actually record your own on their own Recordio discs. And they manufactured the Recordio player/recorder from 1939 to 1962, when the company actually went bankrupt. I believe the company was founded in Minnesota and then later moved to Chicago and then had to file bankruptcy in 1962. So we have from 1939 to 62, we have about a little over 2 decades that this machine was manufactured in its different various models. And but still, that's relatively a pretty short period of time for these discs to exist. And I did as much research as I could find online to try to find out what year these actually come from. None of mine have anything written on the labels at all. So, I couldn't go by that. But from looking on eBay and just finding different pictures of Recordio records that have the same labels these do, I think I've narrowed it down to between 1945 and 1952, and I'm going to say probably around 1948 is when I think that these records were recorded. I'm not positive, and I don't know if there's any way to actually know unless they actually say it on there, which I doubt that they will. But that's when I think that all of these records came from, based off of the labels, and then other Recordio discs that I saw pictures of that did have the year labeled on them online. One other thing that I found that I thought was really cool was I found this neat article about the Radiola records, and they had a picture of an advertisement, and I'll put it somewhere here on screen so you can see this as I'm talking about it, but it had an advertisement for the a Recordio player. And you can see here on it that it has listed some different prices and things. And in this article, it was kind of neat. It talked about the different prices of the models. And so they had 3 models available, basically. The deluxe model, a mid-range model, and then a table unit is what they refer to it as. And I took the prices that they cost at the time and adjusted for inflation using some internet calculators. And I found what these players would cost nowadays. So the deluxe model in this article says that it cost $175. So adjusted for inflation in 2021 US dollars, that would be around $3,256. So that's a lot. The mid-range unit cost $129, which adjusted for inflation is $2,400 for the mid-range unit. And then the lowest, cheapest unit at the time in 1940 cost $74, which adjusted would be around $1,377 today. And that's pretty crazy if you think, in 1940, that was the tail end of the Depression, the Great Depression. People didn't have a lot of money to spend on items like this, luxury items. So I'm pretty sure that our records that we're going to be listening to today were recorded probably on the $74 unit, I would imagine. There wasn't a ton of extra wealth here in the Midwest at the time. Not that these records couldn't have come from somewhere else, but I'm sure they were probably from the area based on the polka music. And even nowadays, there's not a lot of crazy luxurious stuff around here. So I would guess it's the cheap model, though I have no proof of that. One other interesting thing the article said was it had the prices for the discs listed, which I thought was really interesting. To buy 6 of the 6.5-inch Recordio discs, it cost 75 cents for a pack of 6. Well, that 75 cents nowadays would equal $13.95. So imagine that. That'd be like buying 6 blank CDs for about $14. That's pretty crazy. The bigger red discs, the 10-inch ones, those cost up to $2.25 per pack of 6. So for 6 of those, nowadays, adjusted for inflation, were worth about $41.87. So $42, which is pretty crazy to think about. So I just thought that was kind of neat information that I wanted to throw out there and give to you guys. One more thing I want to do, and I got to adjust where I'm at here. I got to get closer to the camera. Sorry, folks. I want to go through and show you guys these discs up close so that you can see them. Here's the label. And you can see here, this disc is probably the one in maybe the worst condition. And I'm not sure if this is the one that had the speech on it or not. I don't know which one it was. I think it was one of these. This other side is very cracked. You can see here. A bit flaking off here at the top, but that's not in the recording area, so we should be okay with that. I don't know what this will sound like. I really do not. But we'll just have to, see what happens. So that's the one sort of white disc. This one I feel like definitely looks like it's in better condition. You can see the grooves. You can see the grooves on this one. The other disc you really can't even tell because of all the lines. This one definitely looks like it's in better shape. Now, I was looking online, and a couple of people mentioned that the inside piece here was cardboard, but that this outside was sort of like a cardboard, but there was some sort of a plastic. I don't know if it was plastic or what it was. Some sort of a layer on top that then was recorded into. And from everything I was reading online, people were saying that it was common. Not a lot of these discs exist anymore because they were very fragile, obviously. I don't know if you can tell that, but they're very fragile. But what they would do is they would sort of fold into sort of a taco shape. And, I'm really lucky that these didn't do that. So we'll see. I think we'll be able to hear this one actually pretty good, but it's just crazy when you look at that. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know if my camcorder does a good job. but the pits and lands are so uneven. It really is going to be interesting to see what that looks like. Now, those are the two sort of white or taupe discs. These red ones actually looks like we might have two different songs on this, two tracks on this one. I'm probably a little too close to the mic for you guys. It's hard for my camcorder to adjust. So this one you can still see you can see major cracking in this one. The label is the same, so I'm assuming it came from around the same time. The discs all of them are pretty warped, but not too bad. Not as bad as they could, certainly not as bad as they could be. This one is a little bit more cracked, I feel, than... There you can see with the light reflection. So we'll see. I don't know. And then this last one, I think, actually, I thought looked better. Oh, it's pretty cracked on this side. But this side isn't as bad. So, you know, I really don't know. Records can sometimes surprise you. I've seen records play and sound pretty good that look just horrendous. So I don't know what we're going to end up getting, but we'll try it. So with all of that said, everything gone through, the next thing you're going to see, I'm not going to bother recording myself, do the process of recording them or anything. But, well, actually, I will record myself recording them. What you're actually going to see is the camcorder pointed at the record, and you'll see the record spin, and I'll put the needle down. And what you're going to hear is the finished audio. And like I said, I may include some clips in there of exactly the way that it was recorded with all the static and everything left in it, which I'm sure it'll still be very staticky. Not expecting this to clean up super well, but I'll go through and add all my effects and denoising and all sorts of stuff, whatever I need to do to try to fix it. That's what you'll hear, but I will have clearly labeled somewhere on the screen here what is original audio just pulled right from the record and what is like fixed audio, restored audio, if you will. So I don't know if I'll be back at the end of this video or not. We'll see what happens. But let's get to listening to some of these records. Okay, so I've been doing some messing around, and I think it's time for me to finally start recording, and I've got a few things here that I'm going to use to help me. So right away off the bat, I discovered that I can't play the records as it is because the stylus here is not heavy enough to press down on the records. It needs to be pressed down pretty hard. So what I found I can do is I can, on top of the stylus, I originally started with this washer that I found, but it is too heavy. So then I found this like door knob thing, and the stylus is not the easiest. I know that they say you're supposed to put like a coin or something on it, but the stylus is I don't know if you can see in the video, but there's actually a little bit of like a dip on either side of this, so it's hard to set something on there. And so I found this door hinge part, and I can just like set this on top, and then actually it's easy to grab it because this part sticks off of it. So basically I just set it sort of like this on there. I know that's kind of silly. And then for the smaller records, they're actually so small and light that the stylus on it, even with nothing on it, while it was turning, it was preventing the records from actually turning the correct speed. So what I would do is I would take the record, set it on there, and then I would take this little spool of electrician's tape and with the washer, and then actually I just found this random rock down here in our basement and set the rock on there as well. And then what it would do is it would turn. It would turn, and the weight in the middle was holding it down. And I know that this isn't like super scientific and precise, but you know, it was working. So we're going to start recording, and I'm actually going to start with these smaller discs, the 6.5-inch ones, because they're the more important ones. And I have already gone through at this point now and listened to them, so I do know what's on them. So I'm not going to be like reacting to them or anything. This is purely just for the recording of the video, and I am recording this though. So I am recording this, so what you are going to be hearing is the fixed sound after I fix it up, because it's going to be pretty loud, but I have some decrackle, denoise stuff, some EQ and different things like that, and I'll do those effects to it. So yeah, I decided what you will be hearing is the actual finished product. There's not much sense in showing you what it sounded like before and after, because it doesn't clean it up all that much. It's not incredibly different. And it's actually really interesting what ended up being... Oh, here, hold on, let me turn the mic back. It actually ended up being pretty interesting what is on these records. Almost all of it, actually I think all of it, deals with my hometown that I'm actually from, that I mentioned, the town of 300 people. It's called Prague, Nebraska, which you're going to hear them reference multiple times. And they're talking about it being in sort of... Well, I'm not going to spoil anything. Not that it matters to you, but yeah, let's just go ahead and try this. We'll see what happens. I'm not too sure, you know, what's going to happen. Okay, so one other thing that I learned is that I need to keep the volume very low. Very, very, very low. So the volume knob is over here, and I'm basically going to turn it all the way down and then up like just maybe an eighth of a turn or so. And we'll just see what happens. Also, another thing to mention with this record player, it has a 78 side for the needle and a LP side, and I found that switching back and forth, it does give you a little bit more clarity on one side or the other. I think the 78's the better one, but it's a very old player and the needle is ground down quite a bit. And actually, I think as it was circling around, sorry, I forgot to move the microphone again. As it's circling around, I think it actually, some of the records are so warped that it might have actually, the record itself might have been actually hitting this little piece here on the bottom of the needle. So sometimes it might be easier to have it on the LP setting rather than the 78 setting, even though I think the 78 setting might actually sound a little bit better. So, all right, let's do this. This is White Disc 1, Side 1. And I'm going to set the tone knob right here. It's treble. Oh, hold on, let me get this out of the way. It's treble all the way to the left, bass all the way to the right. I will adjust it if I need to, but for the most part, I'm just going to leave it straight up and down. I think that sounds okay. There's not a lot of frequencies to what you're going to be hearing anyway. So, all right, without this piece, I'll just show you what it sounds like. And here we go.
Howdy, ladies and gentlemen.
And I'll bet my boots you will agree
bit of everything in Texas. And really I'm not bragging, you see. There's a little bit of everything in Texas. And a whole lot of Texas in me. Oh, how do you feel, Jim?
So that's the first side of White Disc 1. And it's interesting to note that in the middle there, they recorded over it. And that person who's speaking, I believe, had said, this is Howard Vavak. It was, I believe, the name of the person. And I think that because of what's on the other records. There is a Howard Vavak. I believe it's Howard Vavak talking. And Vavak is a last name that's pretty common. Not necessarily common, but I've heard it before around Prague. So, all right, let's flip this over. So again, this was the side here. The entire time you heard that that was this cut, this fold in the record here. And we'll probably hear, no, it doesn't really go all the way through, but, all right. Now I will say, when I was working with these earlier to try to get everything figured out, I do know for a fact that it needs this in the middle. So you'll have to just kind of trust me on that. And we'll see. I'll mess with putting this on and not putting it on. If we don't need it, I won't have it because I feel like there's a little bit more high frequency response if the needle's not pressing down as much. And that whole time we used the 78 record because the whole time it worked nice. So I didn't even bother with switching over. So, all right. Side 2.
Ale Joeyku, ty kluku, co děláš? Kde jsi nechal nosit do hors? Co tam děláš? Šťouráš? Vždycky utečeš a ona tak potom tečí, jí to potřeba. Jo, ty muláku. Určitě mi nějaký kluce, potom to bude horajt. To je půl hádání, když se to navaže na fotka. A co ten děláš? Dělá hloupostě a ten Janeček, ten má kluče s tím chradičkem mordí. Hej, počka mi tady s tím utečeš. Ona tady přispí, ona naboukne na desku, ona má takový břík, co bude mě ty koťata. My tam máme 6 koťata. Co jsi udělal ty, Ask? Hej, jak dojíš krávy za WhatsApp? In the front? Máme na spát a máme nechat. Máš dneska. Hej. Ten zvlášť. To tam jsou, ale... To bude zaspíval tady. Vy červenej suchýku. To umí. To je hlupá. Šup tam. Nemůže se šup jedna. To se to hloupá. To se šup tam. říkal Joeyku, ty kluku, co děláš? Kde jsi nechal nosit Dolores? Co tam děláš, šťoudáš? Vždycky utečeš a ona tady potom tečí, je to potřeba. Jo, ty muláci. Určitě mi nějaký kluci, potom to bude orajt. To je furt hádání, když to namažuje na fotka a co ten děláš? Dělá hloupostě a ten Janeček ten tam klíče s tím tragickým mordě. Hejde, 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 hejde. Počka mi tady vždycky uteče. Ona tady vždycky spí, naboukne, ona má takový velký bříchový mezi koťata. My tam máme 6 koťata. Co jsi udělal ty, Avka? Hej, jak dojíš krávy do vodca? In der Front? Das war etwas Spaß am Hals, nicht falsch. Ich war nett. Nee. Samo umí, nehlubá, jo, penču, dám, nám může přešut jedna, to se toho má, to se šouká, no,
Okay, so that's disc 2, and I zoomed in on it a little bit there because we've already heard the whole thing at that point. But there you heard me change from the LP to the 78. I don't think that there's too much difference in terms of loudness. It actually sounded pretty similar to me just sitting here listening on my headphones while I was going over this. But now I will also point out, remember, I'm 99.9999999% sure that this is all mono. This player is mono. There's no way it was recorded in stereo. And so what I'm doing actually is just going out of the headphone output of this player here with just a regular tip sleeve cable. I don't need a tip ring sleeve cable. Right into the input of my M-Box over here. Okay, so that's disc 1. Okay, so here we have disc 2, and this one looks a little bit better, but the quality of it I don't think is as good. Now this one, you'll notice when I put it on here, if you can see, let me zoom in here a little, it is bubbled, and it will pop back up. And then that, of course, means on the other side here, I can try. This, when I was messing with this earlier, it would not stay down like this, especially while it was recording. And so that is the reason that I had to get this guy. And I think, that helped a lot. Now, I am aware that putting weight on this and everything is probably changing the RPMs and everything. But at this point, with this being so old and as rinky-dinky as these things are, I don't think we're going for like super, super accuracy. I just want to be able to record everything. If I can get it all the way through the whole disc, I think that's the best. That's my goal. That's what I'm aiming for. So, all right, here we go with disc 2, side 1.
just my son. My only regret is that we've never met, for I dream of her all the while. How can I know the girl next door? I love her more than I can say. Doesn't try to please me, doesn't even tease me, and she never sees me glide her way. And though I'm heart sore, the girl next door, affection for me won't display. I just adore. I can't ignore the girl next door.
That was great. That was great. It was almost an entire song. Now, the way it started there with that little thing, to me almost says that it was possibly... That sounded like tape. I'm not sure how you could get that sound. Well, I guess if you set it and it was just... You know what that probably was? When they were recording it, they probably had the needle set on there, and then you hit record, and it takes a few little seconds to wind up, and the piano was playing right away, already playing when they started recording. That would be my guess. Interesting. Okay, on to side 2 of White Disc number 2. Now also, I'll point out this other hole here. No idea what that's for. You know? I mean, there's no way there's some sort of an other thing on here. I don't know how that could have happened unless it got set on there accidentally or something. So, who knows? Now this one has a pretty bad spot right here. So we'll see if it will play through that.
Listen again tomorrow to the concerto music of the accordion and violin band, brought to you each Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock. And I would like to have you all listen to this last concerto. again tomorrow. The concerto music of the accordion and violin band, brought to you each Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock. And I would like to have you all listen to this last concerto.
Okay, so there you can see, you could definitely tell there that when I put this weight on, the record actually stopped moving a few times. And then when we were listening to it, you could definitely tell that it was affecting the speed at which it was playing. And so that's sort of one of the drawbacks of, doing everything this way and sort of jury rigging this system up. But we managed to get through it both times with the 78 needle and the LP needle, all the way through with no weight on it. And that's great. I'm very excited about that. That worked really good. Okay, on to the next disc. Okay, now we are on to the first 10-inch disc. This one is the red, and we'll see what happens. Now, when I was messing with these, I did not use these on them, so I'm going to put those away for now, and if we need them, that's fine. It might actually help to keep them consistent, but I believe the hole in the middle of the needle is snug enough that it will keep it spinning pretty good. Now, this one, I don't know if you can tell from there. I think you can see. This one has 2 tracks on it. So we'll see what's up with that. I'm going to try it with I'm going to try it on the LP setting first. All right, well, let's switch over to 78. Try it on the 78 first, and no weight for as long as we can do it.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is the woodpecker here from the Prague radio shop in Prague, Nebraska. I'd like to have you talk to another woodpecker over here, Mr. Fry. Hello there, folks. Oh, we're going to have a basketball game, the 9th, next week, and I hope we beat Malmo by a score of at least 12 to 4 or 5.
I'm going to restart it.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is the woodpecker here from the Prague radio shop in Prague, Nebraska. I'd like to have you talk to another woodpecker over here, Mr. Fry. Hello there, folks. Oh, we're going to have a basketball game, the 9th, next week, and I hope we beat Malmo by a score of at least 12 to 4 or 5. Why not 25 to 5? I don't think we could get it that high. Why not? Oh, we have small players, not too high. Think the bushel basket will be big enough? Hope so. Well, I think you guys should win. Oh, I hope. Depends how good you are. Yeah? Now I'd like to turn you over to 2 more chaps over here sitting right beside me.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Howard Vavak here from the radio shop in Prague, Nebraska. You just listened to the 2 woodpeckers. And I'd like to have you talk to Gary Kriabasi.
Hello there, folks. Well, you heard the 2 woodpeckers and then Howard Vavak. Hope you folks have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same from me, Digger Odell. I hope you bury yourself soon in your grave. Well, we'll have to say goodbye. So goodbye, Kriabasi. Goodbye, Vavak.
Folks, this is the little woodpecker, and he's rocking top. Playing Winter Wonderland.
Okay, so that was side one of this record, and that is very, very, very cool. What I think I've understood now from listening to that is that I think they may have some sort of a device that makes their voices go faster, which is why they're talking about the woodpeckers. Because if you know anything about if you know anything about Woody Woodpecker, his voice was sped up a little bit. And so that's very interesting. All right, let's go to track 2 here. Now, whoop. All right. It looks like I'm going to have to use this guy again. At least I think that would probably be the best way to do it rather than having it be bent in. I may try it both ways. We'll see.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what? We'll talk about something. Anything? Oh, I'm coming uptown tonight to see hockey over television. My goodness gracious. Well, I hope some of the other kids come down also. Why? I'll see hockey or go to the picture show.
Then what? What?
Oh, then maybe walk around town or go to the store and buy something.
You know what I could pick it up?
You, I don't know. You, I don't know.
Well,
You do it, I don't know.
quick, I'll talk to you. I'll see how they always.
Say, folks, this is Howard Vavak's radio shop here in the National Hall, and we'd all like to have you folks come out and see the great show we're showing tonight. It's sure a wonderful picture, and if you have any radio trouble, I would advise you to see Howard first. He's quite a handy man, and he has a nice display of radios of all types, and I'm sure he could satisfy your taste. Well, this is saying so long for Howard Vavak.
So this disc, now I'm absolutely certain that they had some sort of a voice changer. And I think what's happening is they mentioned the National Hall, which is a building that's still in Prague, Nebraska, that does still get used. And it's the same building, I'm sure it was back when this was recorded. But it sounds like they're doing like a radio show type thing or something, you know, and with the music we've heard, it's probably recorded. So I don't know if there was actually a radio station in Prague at any point ever. I don't think that there was. I've never heard that. So I think maybe what they did was they had like a radio, or like the Howard Vavak, I assume, had some sort of like a radio repair shop, and maybe he sold radios as well, and he got a product in, a Recordio in. And so what they were doing was just playing with it and pretending they had some sort of like a radio show. But he had some sort of a device, obviously, that could change their speech. And so I don't know if they were monitoring that, like, and they could hear their voices change in real time, but it sounded there like he had someone come over and the kids, and, you know, someone was coming over to watch the hockey game, On a TV, it sounded like maybe. And there was also, he mentioned a picture show. So I don't know if that means they had like a little cinema or something. There's never been a cinema or anything like that in Prague to what I know. So maybe they just had a TV there and everyone would go there to watch a TV or something. I really don't know. Really interesting though. So really cool. I mean, this is absolutely fantastic. Like this is history from my town, and that's absolutely incredible. 3, 2, 1. Whoops. Idiot. Okay, so we're on to the last disc here, the second 10-inch red one. And this is the one that, as I was messing with them earlier, this is the one that by far sounded the worst. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens here.
Possible price for your grain when you sell it to the Prague Co-op Elevator Company in Prague Nebraska. Be smart and get the most for your grain. Market it at the Prague Co-op Elevator Company. At the present time, the Prague Co-op Elevator Company is selling out their feedstock at 20 and 30% discount. If you plan to do any painting at all this spring, here's your opportunity to save and save life. Be Tony and Dennis at the Prague Co-op Elevator. You have to market and be sure to stop in this week for paint at 20 and 30% discount. What else, Dennis? Now it's okay. This is right here. You can have a little modern medley here, real quick like, starting out with Mary Lou, Margie, and beautiful, 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 beautiful.
So that side was interesting. We got an ad for the Prague Cooperative Elevator, and it sounded like they were talking about paint there, which I'm not sure if they sold paint there, but they must have. So that's really interesting. If you're unfamiliar, the Prague, an elevator, when you're talking about an elevator in a small town or small rural town, they're talking about the place, sort of like a mill, like the place where you took your crops to be stored and to get paid from the elevator. You sold your crops to the local elevator. At least that's my understanding of it. I'm not an expert, but I have lived here my whole life. So, all right, let's see the other side of this. Also, real quick, you will note that it couldn't get through that ad when it got to Prague Cooperative. It kept saying Prague Cooperative, Prague Cooperative, Prague Cooperative, Prague Cooperative. And when I put the weight on there, then it was able to make it through. So this is the record that got me to sort of think that I need to put a little weight on there. So I'm really happy we were able to get through the other ones without putting the weight on there, but we'll see what this side is. So there we have the second side there of the... Oh, actually, you can see here. This is interesting. Let me zoom in here. I don't know if you can tell, but there is like a dust that has appeared on the record. And I'm not sure if that is actual dust or if it is, in fact, like pieces of the record actually like coming out, like actual pieces of the cardboard or of the plastic or whatever was coated, what it was coated with, actually coming off and like scraping off. So I don't know. So I'm not sure. It almost sounded like he said Mary Lou something and with a song, and that was obviously the same person. So my thinking is that this record, both sides of this, were actually, remember we heard the Prague cooperative commercial on this side. My thinking is that what we heard this record is an actual recording from a radio channel that was recorded at the time. I would assume probably the time of the other Red record, which is where we were getting the interviews with those kids. So my thinking is that Howard Vavak got a Recordio record player back in the day, and he had it at his radio shop. And that other disc was him recording and messing around with the actual recording aspect of it. Now, I don't know how the woodpecker thing came to be. It sounded like that was sort of like a established thing for them. I mean, obviously Woody Woodpecker is an established, well-known property, but it really, I don't know. I'm not too sure exactly what's going on there. I'm excited to try to talk to some people from town and see if I can find anyone that remembers there being a radio station or Howard Vavak's radio store or anything like that. So I don't know what's going on, but my guess is that this was then him messing with a lot of Recordio discs at the time, or Recordio record players at the time, had the availability for you to play the radio on them and to record what you were hearing. So I'm assuming that that's what this disc is. It's a recording of what was on the actual radio station, and he was probably recording it so he could hear the Prague Cooperative ad, would be my guess. So that's pretty cool. It's actually really awesome to hear that ad. I wish it was better quality like the speaking was on the other disc, but yeah. So there you have it. That's all 4 of the discs, and this is not going to look very good, but hey, there I am. There you have it. That's all 4 of the discs. And hopefully you enjoyed this video, found it interesting. I don't know the one disc of the 2 women speaking Czech. I don't know if that was the woman's from the garage sale's mother or not. I'm excited to get the tracks to her and see what she says. But I do think that it's really cool regardless of if that has any like sort of significance to her family. Certainly all of these records have a significance to Prague, Nebraska, the town I grew up in. So that's really, really cool. The other disc that had the country song on it, what's bigger in Texas or big in Texas or something like that. I'm assuming that was from the radio station as well, because there was so much stuff in it. Obviously, it wasn't just people standing around a microphone and playing and stuff. However, you could hear the Christmas song that happened there on that one of the discs. You could hear the person in the room singing along with the recording. You could hear him even do the Woody Woodpecker thing and everything. And then you could even hear him at moments speed up and slow down the actual music. So that may have been them playing a record on a different record player and then having them holding the microphone up and hearing it. So I'm not too sure, but that's really interesting. And then the record that had the piano playing and the person singing over it. It was fantastic piano playing. Maybe there was a piano there and they recorded it with a person singing, because the singing wasn't fantastic, but it could have been recorded there. Another thing they could have done was, I'm sure that it was very common back in the day to have instrumental records so that you could play the record and then have people sing along with it. So maybe the piano playing was from an instrumental record and the person singing was a person just standing there singing in the radio store or whatever it was at the time. So I'm not positive. I actually don't know what's going on there. Still fantastic, fascinating, interesting, really, really, really cool. I wasn't really planning to do an outro for this video or anything, so whatever. But thank you for watching, and if you are someone who's Czech and you heard the Czech conversation between the 2 women and you know what was being said, I would love for you to try to figure that out, maybe post it in the comments. I might try to take that part of the video and cut it out and send it to like a Facebook group that I belong to, of some, it's called the Nebraska Bohemians Facebook page. I may try to post that there and see if I can find someone that speaks Czech to try to translate some of that and see what it is. And if I do find that out ever, I will try to put that translation in the description of this video so you can check that if I ever figure that out. I may also, like I said at the beginning here, I may cut some of this stuff up and upload them to YouTube just as whole separate things, just so people could see those if they want to and they're not interested to hear me talk for half hour, which I totally get. But regardless, thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully it turns out as good as I wanted it to. I think I'm super, super happy with the way everything turned out. The quality of everything is much better than I thought it was going to be as well. And yeah, so I'm going to work on decrackling, depopping, declicking, all that sort of stuff, EQ, some compression and whatnot. And so what you hear will probably sound better than it was while I was listening to it, monitoring it in real time here. But I'm not going to edit stuff out. Like, I'm not going to just put like a perfect track in there. You will hear everything, me lifting up the needle and all that stuff. I think that's part of this video. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if I ever come across some awesome stuff like this again, I will do it again. If you've done something cool like this on your channel, or if you know someone that has done something cool like this, tell me your stories. Let me know. Audio restoration is really fascinating to me, and it is truly like saving a part of history. So again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.